Hi everyone. As you know by now, at Sherazade Foundation, we have launched a crowdfunding campaign to acquire a very small part of what was once an enormous treasure taken by the British from Abyssinia, what's now Ethiopia, back in the year 1868. The British took all kinds of things. It was said that I think it was 12 elephants and 5,000 mules were used to transport the treasure from the mountain fortress of Emperor Theodros down to the plateau. And down at the plateau, there was a man called Richard Rivington Holmes, sent by the manuscript department of the British Museum to buy anything he could get his hands on. And what he was getting his hands on was looted treasure. It was this, cortege of 12 elephants and 5,000 mules laden with loot. And I've heard it say that whatever couldn't be transported down to the plain was set fire to. These gigantic Coptic Bibles from medieval Abyssinia were burnt because they were too big to carry. Just imagine that. And some of the stuff that the British took would have just seemed like just unimportant loot to them. But in a kind of characteristic twist of colonial history, they took with them some objects which were of astonishing religious and cultural importance. Anyone who's ever seen Indiana Jones will know about the Ark of the Covenant and the 10 Commandments. Any Ethiopian you've ever spoken to will tell you how all Ethiopians believe that the 10 Commandments, the original ones, are kept in the Ark of the Covenant in Aksum in the north of Ethiopia, and that they can only be seen by a priest. I know that myself because I've been to Aksum a few times and I've asked very politely to see the Ark of the Covenant, and I've been told equally politely that it will not be possible. Some of the objects that were taken by the British didn't probably look like much at all, but they were, as I say, astonishingly important for the Coptic Church, which is so central to life of many Ethiopians. And a number of these objects, which really just looked like wooden or stone, like alabaster tiles, maybe about 6 inches square, 15 centimeters by 15, and about that thick. They didn't look like anything at all, but they were called, and they are called, Tabbot, T-A-B-O-T. It's known that in the British Museum there are 11 of these Tabbots. They are in the acquisition pages of the British Museum website, and they are more sacred to the Coptic Church of Ethiopia than almost anything else. I think anything else that I can think of. They are copies of the tablets that are in the Ark of the Covenant, supposedly, and they, more importantly, form a central part of all ceremonies and liturgy within the Ethiopian Church. They are placed on the altar and they are carried in processions, and they are totally central. In my Magdala Expedition Hall of Fame, number 10, the last photo, I thought hard about this. This is the picture I'm going to show you. This is the front door of a bookshop in London called Maggs, M-A-G-G-S. It's actually moved. This was where it was in Berkeley Square about 17 years ago, when someone who was looking through their objects of sale and their books saw a plaque that stood out, and he was an Englishman, but he had a knowledge of the Coptic Church of Ethiopia, and he knew instantly that the object that Maggs had for sale was in actual fact one of the Tabbots taken by the British punitive force from Magdala. he bought it and he flew to Ethiopia and he gave it back to the Coptic Church of Ethiopia, just as we're planning to do with some of the objects that we managed to acquire. I'm showing you this picture because the 11 Tabbots that are in the British Museum, and anyone can go on their acquisition pages and see them listed there, unlike many objects on the BM pages, the Tabbots have no photograph. And in actual fact, they can never, ever be put on display because they're so sacred. They can never be photographed. They can never be drawn or illustrated. They can never be studied by anyone. And only, as I understand it, the director of the British Museum or some of the trustees are permitted to ever view the Tabbots. And recently I read an article which said that high-ranking members of the Coptic Ethiopian Church were refused entry to pray at these sacred objects in the British Museum, which were looted from the imperial fortress at Magdala 153 years ago. So the reason I'm showing you a picture of Mag's bookshop is it's the closest that I can come to showing you somewhere associated with the sacred Tabbots of Ethiopia. Yes, I could show you a picture of the British Museum, but I rather show you this because in celebration it is an actual place from which a sacred object, part of this treasure, was acquired and returned to Ethiopia in the spirit of Sherazade Foundation. It's exactly what we're working to do. And with your generous donations, and please follow the link, please help us raise €7,000, £6,000 in our crowdfunding campaign. With your generosity, we will be able to achieve that. And very soon, on this social media page, hopefully you will see pictures of the objects being returned to the people of Ethiopia. So again, thank you so much for your generosity, and talk to you soon.